Outer Dark, published in 1968, marks Cormac McCarthy's second novel. While its backdrop resembles Appalachia around the turn of the 20th century, this tale of fantasy transcends a singular locale. It presents a postmodern twist on Southern Gothic literature, revolving around two siblings, Culla and Rinthy Holme, who tragically conceive a child together. After the child's birth, Culla flees, embarking on a journey akin to Cain's in the biblical narrative. He becomes pursued by a trio of ominous figures, who serve as both his tormentors and his guardians. In parallel, Rinthy embarks on her own quest to find her baby, whom Culla callously abandons in the wilderness to meet a cruel fate. As with many of McCarthy's works, Outer Dark delves deep into the extremities of good and evil within a world seemingly forsaken by God. The story commences with a shadowy trio of men journeying westward alongside a river. These movements unfold through 6 italicized vignettes interspersed throughout the primary narrative. The central narrative begins in the spring, introducing Culla Holme, a man haunted by dreams of lost salvation. His sister, Rinthy, awakens him from these nightmarish visions. She is carrying their child, a product of incest, and is on the verge of giving birth. Shortly after, Rinthy delivers a baby boy, and while she slumbers, Culla abandons the child in the woods, misleading her into believing that the infant perished during childbirth. However, a passing tinker happens upon the abandoned baby and rescues him. When Rinthy recovers and visits the supposed grave, she discovers it empty. Culla, now a fugitive and vagabond, flees, embarking on a journey akin to that of the biblical Cain. Meanwhile, Rinthy sets out determined to find her child, convinced that Culla sold the baby to the tinker. The narrative unfolds through unnumbered chapters alternating between Culla's and Rinthy's perspectives. Death and calamity seem to shadow Culla wherever he roams. He finds employment with a squire named Salter, who imparts lectures on the importance of hard work and the sanctity of family, all while underpaying him. In a parallel italicized vignette, the mysterious trio pilfers tools from Salter's barn, and Culla flees the following morning, taking with him Salter's prized vealskin boots. The trio intercepts Salter, relentlessly pursuing Culla, and perpetrates a gruesome murder. In a subsequent town, Culla regains consciousness only to witness the trio's profane act of desecrating 3 graves. The town promptly pins the crime on Culla, compelling him to flee the relentless pursuit of the deputies hot on his trail. Having narrowly evaded the deputies, Culla secures work painting a barn. However, days later, the relentless deputies locate him once more, prompting yet another harrowing escape. In a chilling italicized vignette, the trio's leader rallies a mob to lynch 2 mill hands accused of Salter's murder. Meanwhile, Rinthy encounters goodwill and kindness on her quest to find the tinker. A generous family offers her shelter and a sumptuous meal. However, her journey takes another twist as she encounters a farmer named Bud, who confronts her for taking turnips from his field. Upon hearing her tale, Bud invites her for lunch, but a volatile altercation between Bud and his wife forces Rinthy to flee. Subsequently, Rinthy finds refuge with an elderly woman in a humble shack. Observing Rinthy's lactation, the woman initially accuses her of harming her own baby. However, upon hearing Rinthy's sincere response, the woman softens and offers advice to prevent nipple chafing. Despite this counsel, Rinthy neglects to follow it, leading to painful bleeding. A visit to a doctor reveals that women do not produce milk for 6 months after losing a child, leading Rinthy to believe her own child may still be alive. After his escape from the relentless deputies, Culla stumbles upon a reclusive snake hunter living in the wilderness. The lonely hermit offers to take Culla under his wing as an apprentice, but Culla, irritated by the man's overbearing demeanor, declines the offer. However, their paths cross once more when the trio arrives at the snake hunter's doorstep. The trio's leader, clad in a stolen black suit reminiscent of a minister, carries out a gruesome act, disemboweling the snake hunter. Culla's journey eventually leads him to the town of Clark, where a confrontation with Bud ensues. Bud, suspecting Culla of having cholera, brandishes a threat to shoot him. Culla secures employment digging graves for the millhands lynched in Clark, a task assigned to him by Clark himself. However, much like Squire Salter, Clark adopts a condescending attitude towards Culla. The following day, Culla is met with an eerie sight. The town stands deserted, and Clark's lifeless body hangs alongside the millhands, the gruesome handiwork of the menacing trio. After leaving Clark behind, Culla arrives at a river ferry crossing. During the perilous crossing, the raging river snaps the ferry cable, resulting in the ferryman's tragic demise and leaving Culla adrift downstream. Following a night of drifting, Culla spots a distant fire on the shore. Desperate for help, he calls out, drawing the attention of the trio, who promptly pull him to shore. Around the flickering firelight, they subject Culla to torment, leveling accusations of murdering the ferryman, pilfering his prized vealskin boots, and even hinting at serving him meat that raises suspicions of human flesh consumption. Meanwhile, Rinthy's relentless quest leads her to the tinker, who adamantly refuses to return her child. He deems her an unfit mother, but his true motive lies in coveting the child as a symbol of innocence to shield himself from the misfortunes plaguing his life. Upon learning of the child's incestuous origins, he flies into a rage and threatens Rinthy's life should she pursue him. Over time, Rinthy resurfaces, her spirit crushed by grief, existing in a hollow relationship with an unnamed farmer. One fateful night, she escapes, resuming her search. On her journey, she encounters a dire omen of death in the form of a giant black horse. In an italicized vignette, the tinker reclaims the child, previously entrusted to a wet nurse. The trio locates the tinker and the infant, resulting in the tinker's gruesome demise. In the winter, Culla takes refuge in an abandoned house, only to be charged with trespassing by its owner. Culla offers to work off his fine and stay in exchange for room and board, but the man sternly declines. Come spring, Culla crosses paths with a group of drovers herding a swine herd. Shortly after his arrival, a calamity unfolds as the hogs stampede off a cliff, tragically ending the life of one of the drovers named Vernon. Accusations against Culla for the stock's disappearance escalate, and the irate drovers threaten to hurl him over the precipice. An unkempt preacher suddenly emerges on the scene, fervently pleading with them not to cast Culla over the cliff. However, he ultimately consents to allow the drovers to hang Culla, and they start their journey back to camp to retrieve a rope. As luck would have it, Culla finds a spot where the cliff is low enough to make a daring leap into the river below, narrowly escaping the drovers' clutches. After floating downstream for some distance, Culla once again encounters the trio along the riverbank. Astonishingly, his child is alive but bears grievous injuries, with burns marring one side of its tiny body and one eye missing. The tinker's lifeless form dangles from a nearby tree. The trio's leader confronts Culla, urging him to assume responsibility for his child, yet Culla defiantly refuses. In a horrifying act, the leader slaughters the child and feeds its remains to his speechless companion. They then set the glade ablaze, but inexplicably spare Culla's life. Sometime later, Rinthy stumbles upon the scorched glade. Perplexed by the sight of a tiny ribcage amidst the charred wreckage, she waits into the night, hoping for someone's return, but her vigil goes unanswered. As time marches on, Culla persists in his aimless wanderings. Along his journey, he encounters a blind man on the road, who shares a tale of a tormented soul afflicted by an unknown ailment. The blind man offers to pray for Culla's salvation, but Culla dismisses the gesture with a sneer, convinced he needs nothing of the sort. Continuing along the road, he eventually reaches a desolate marsh as the road comes to an end. When he passes the blind man again, he chooses to hide and refrains from warning him about the impending danger ahead. In his desperate attempt to escape the guilt haunting him, symbolized by the demonic trio, Culla remains oblivious to the fact that this very effort to flee is the root cause of his unending suffering. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.